With our words, we create reality. Have you ever noticed that we often rehearse the very stories that we are asking God to change? So we say things like, I don't have enough clients, or my business isn't growing, or no one comments on my posts. I don't have an email list. I am terrible at marketing. These are stories that we tell ourselves on repeat in our minds. And we say them over and over again. And then we wonder, why are we having the exact things that we don't want? Listen, I used to say these things too, but I have come to understand that every time we repeat those sentences, we're strengthening them, not just spiritually, but neuroplasticity, but neurologically. Every time we say those things, we are strengthening them, not just spiritually, but neurologically. There you go. Here's what's fascinating to me. God designed our brains with this incredible ability called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity. I'm having trouble speaking this morning. All right, so it simply means that our brains are constantly changing. Every thought we think, every belief that we have, every word or sentence or thought that we rehearse, and everything that we say repeatedly strengthens certain neural pathways. The more we say those things, the more that we travel those mental roads, the easier they become to be traveled again. So I want you to just think about your brain, like if you could imagine your brain, and every time you say something, there's this pathway that's being carved in your brain. And then it makes it just so much easier for you to think that way in the future. It's almost a bit insidious, right? I want you to think about it like you're walking a path through a field. And the very first time that you walk that path, it's all overgrown, and maybe you have to push stuff out of your way to get through the path. And maybe you have to push through tall grasses. Maybe it's a little bit even challenging to get through that path. But if you walk that same path every single day, day after day, year after year, eventually you'll create a well worn trail. And that is how your brain works. Pretty much the same way. When we continually say, I don't have enough, no one wants what I have to offer, I'll never get the clients that I want, we are deepening the pathways of scarcity and defeat. Before long, those thoughts of lack become our brain's default setting, right? And so clearly, that is not what we want. We are here because we're purpose driven. Been called to do certain things in the world, and we want to do what the Bible tells us to do, which is to renew our minds so that we can have the things that God is calling us to. I want to share the good news with you. And the good news is this: God did not create our brains to stay stuck, He created them to be renewed. That's why Romans 12:2 tells us, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Long before neuroscience discovered neuroplasticity, God had already revealed that transformation begins by renewing our thinking. Every time we intentionally replace words of fear and words of lack with words that are rooted in truth, we are doing more than just thinking positively. We're cooperating with God's design for how our minds work. As we repeatedly speak truth over ourselves, we're strengthening new neural pathways while the old ones gradually become weaker, and through lack of use, they disappear altogether. Over time, our minds begin to default to faith instead of fear, positivity instead of negativity, possibility instead of limitation, and hope instead of hopelessness. So I want you to just imagine for a moment that you have been thinking that you can't do something, or maybe it has to do with an offer that you've created and you did a um, webinar and nobody purchased. And so now you have this thought in your mind that nobody wants what you have to offer. What if you thought about this differently? What if you thought about it from the perspective of you have something valuable to share, and there are people out there who need what you have to offer? What if that was the story that you were telling yourself? I believe that if you started from a place of positivity, of a place of faith, you would start to attract the right people into your world. And so we start to think about, who has God called us to be? Who has He called us to serve? And we start thinking about those people and what we can do to benefit them. One of the things that I'm really clear about is that when you are on this entrepreneurial journey and you're doing it because you are desperate, then you reek of desperation and nobody wants what you have. But if you are doing it because you are called and you know for a fact, no matter what, that you're going to show up and do what God has called you to do, because the reward may be money, but the reward is hearing, well done, my good and faithful servant. When you give value in the world, the money comes. So I don't want you to worry about making the money. I want you to worry about being your best self, being who God has called you to be. Our words don't make God move. And that's one thing, I want to be clear about. We're not talking about prosperity gospel or anything like that. We're talking about doing exactly what God told us to do: renew our minds. Those words that we're speaking, they position our hearts to agree with God. And when our minds are renewed, our choices change, our confidence changes, our actions change. We begin to show up differently in our businesses because we're no longer rehearsing the story of life. We are living from this place of truth that we are who God says we are. And that's what I was talking about before. Is like the way that we show up, our presence, how we stand in this confidence, knowing that God is our provider and that we don't have to worry about anything. People sense that. They may not even be able to put their finger on it exactly, but they can tell when we are in a place of desperation versus in a place where we truly want to help them. And a lot of times, I think as we're journeying down this path, we think it's about us and what we need and what God is going to do for us. But really, we have been positioned so that we can serve. We are positioned so that we can help somebody else. And if we're so busy worried about what we're going to get out of it and what we need and where we have lack and our own issues, then we don't have space and room to support anybody else. The Bible has always taught us that words matter. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruits. That's what Proverbs 18:21 tells us, right? Notice that it does not tell us that words are just sounds. The words that we speak carry fruit. Every word we repeatedly speak becomes a story our minds will begin to accept. So we have to be so careful about what we say to ourselves as well as what we say to other people. Words have life, right? And they're released into the atmosphere and they become what you say. So we have to make sure that we don't have idle words, and we certainly have to make sure that we don't use destructive words. We don't use destructive words as we're talking about our businesses. We don't use destructive words as we're talking about ourselves, and we certainly don't use destructive words as we're talking about other people. Our brains strengthen the neural pathways we use the most often. The thoughts and words we repeat become the highways our minds naturally travel. God designed our brains that way. Can you believe that? Like, I get so fascinated by the fact that God spoke in 7 days. He created all of this stuff, including us. Well, 6 days and then he rested. But in 6 days, he created all of this stuff, including us. And in the creating of us, he created these brains that have the power to do amazing things, including keeping us alive. But the way the brain works, the neuroscience of it all is so fascinating, right? So he created these brains that work that way, which means that if we continually rehearse the things that we don't want, the lack, I don't have clients, that's lack. I don't have enough, that's definitely lack. This is hard, that's lack. And so once we rehearse those things, we're carving new pathways into our brains. And then that feeling of lack becomes increasingly familiar. But here is a beautiful invitation for you. We are not here to deny reality. That's not what this is all about. It's not the fake it till you make it. It's not about pretending something that isn't real is. It simply means that we are agreeing with the version of reality that God wants for us, right? And so we don't have to live in whatever reality you see today. You don't have to live there. You can start to think about what God has called you to and the work that He has for you and how your life will be transformed by doing what He's called you to do, your purpose, living out your vision. Instead of partnering with fear, we can partner with truth. Instead of rehearsing scarcity, we can rehearse God's faithfulness. And so, wherever you find yourself today, maybe it does look like lack. Maybe you lost your job. Maybe there was a downsizing. Maybe you're trying to figure out how you're going to pay your mortgage or put food on the table. And all of that seems like reality. That seems like the truth, right? But here's the truth. The truth is that God will never leave you or forsake you. The truth is that if God gave you a vision, He will give you provision. The truth is that I've been young and now I'm old. I've never seen the righteous forsaken or a seed begging bread. So if the Bible tells us that He takes care of the sparrows, why wouldn't He take care of us? Then we don't have to sit in a position of lack and rehearse and continually rehearse all the negative things that we don't want in our lives. Instead, we should look for the things that we want, or we should focus on the things that we want. Instead of magnifying what's missing, we need to magnify the one who is leading us, and that is our Lord. Okay? So I want us to think about the words that are coming out of our mouths. Our words influence our thoughts. Our thoughts influence our beliefs. Our beliefs influence our decisions, and our decisions shape our business. It all starts with our words. And so if we are idly speaking words that ultimately are counter to what we want, or if we're speaking words that are negative about our business, and then our businesses aren't thriving, we have to go back to the source, and the source are the words that we're speaking. So today, let's become intentional about the language we are planting, because our words are not magic. It's not that. It's because they reveal what we are agreeing with. They shape how we think. They influence how we show up. They honor God who has called us to speak life. So I'm going to leave you with this. I am going to ask you to have 10 daily um, business declarations that you can speak over your business every day. I'm going to suggest maybe do it for 21 days. It takes 21 days to create a habit, or maybe 30 days, 90 days. You choose. But this is something that you're going to be doing on a regular basis, because we want to carve new neurological pathways in our brain that allows us to understand that in this business that we have created, that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above anything we could ask or imagine. So I want you to say these each morning. I want you to repeat them throughout the day, or whenever you feel maybe this sense of things aren't working out coming on. Remind yourself that God is in this, right? And the more that you say them, the more you'll become familiar with them, and those old stories of lack will start to dissipate. So here's the first one. I am faithfully building the business God has entrusted to me. Repeat that. I am faithfully building the business God has entrusted to me. One more time. I am faithfully building the business that God has entrusted to me. Here's the second one. I serve my clients with wisdom, excellence, and love. Second time. I serve my clients with wisdom, excellence, and love. One more time. I serve my clients with wisdom, excellence, and love. Let's go to number three. The right people are finding me as I faithfully show up. The right people are finding me as I faithfully show up. One more time. The right people are finding me as I faithfully show up. Here's number four. My work creates genuine value, and that value blesses others. My work creates genuine value, and that value blesses others. One more time. My work creates genuine value, and that value blesses others. Here's number five. I choose faith over fear and stewardship over scarcity. I choose faith over fear and stewardship over scarcity. One more time. I choose faith over fear and stewardship over scarcity. Here's number six. My mind is being renewed, and I reject the language of lack. My mind is being renewed, and I reject the language of lack. My mind is being renewed, and I reject the language of lack. Here's number seven. I have everything I need for what God has called me to do today. I have everything I need for what God has called me to do today. Say it one more time. I have everything I need for what God has called me to do today. Number eight, I am becoming more confident, more focused, more consistent every day. I am becoming more confident, more focused, more consistent every day. Last time. I am becoming more confident, more focused, and more consistent every day. Here's number 9. My words agree with God's promises, not my temporary circumstance. My words agree with God's promises, not my temporary circumstance. Say it like you believe it. My words agree with God's promises, not my temporary circumstance. And here's the last declaration: I speak life over my business, my clients, my family, and my future. I speak life over my business, my clients, my family, and my future. Last time. I speak life over my business, my clients, my family, and my future. For the next week, try this. Begin each morning by reading these declarations or saying these declarations aloud. And then, whenever you catch yourself saying, I don't have, or I never do, or I'm not, anything that speaks against what God is calling you into, pause and replace that sentence with one that reflects what you're going towards instead of where you're coming from. Little by little, you'll stop and you'll strengthen the new pathways, and the old pathways will start to go away. Pathways of fear will begin to decline, and the pathways of faith will be reinforced. We'll see faith, we'll see hope, we'll see expectancy. After all, clarity shapes our thoughts shape our words shape the way we show up, and the way we show up consistently changes everything. So I want you to really think about what we have talked about this morning. It's not magic that things appear. I know there is this concept of manifestation. What manifestation really is us putting in the work to renew our minds the way that God has called us to. And as we begin to renew our minds and we carve those neural pathways in our brains, we start to see things differently. We start to experience things differently. And what looked like um, failure all of a sudden turns into success. And people will call us an overnight success. Why? Because we renewed our minds and we did just what the word told us to do: speak life and not death. Thank you for joining me this morning, and I look forward to seeing you again. Go ahead and subscribe so that you will get notifications about future live sessions with me. God bless you and have a wonderful day.